Hello, 8th grade. I'm obviously not here again today. I'm so sorry. I'm hoping that I will be all good to come back tomorrow. So if you felt confused at all yesterday, please don't panic. We'll revisit hooks and thesis statements together when I come back. So again, don't worry about that. Today we're going to talk about concrete details and commentary. So make sure you have your notes page out that the sub gave you. It should look like this. And we are going to go ahead and get started going over concrete details and commentary. Again, if you are confused, we will talk about this when I get back too. And the next several examples that we are going to look at are all from a book called Of Mice and Men. So the first thing that we're going to look at is called a paraphrase. Now, this is when we take something that did happen in the story, but instead of quoting the story, we're going to say it in our own words. So this is an example. This example says, after George kills Lenny, Slim tells him he did the right thing. Now, this is something that does happen in the story, but this isn't an exact quote taken from the story. It's something that I put into my own words. So a paraphrase is our first kind of concrete detail. Our second kind of concrete detail is called a quotation. I'm sure you can guess what a quotation is. It's a direct quote from the story. And so when we use direct quotes, we have to learn how to integrate them. To integrate means to blend. So we're going to blend the quotation into our own writing, and we're going to have smooth lead-ins to the quote. We're going to talk about this when I get back. In other words, a quotation is when we take the exact words from the story and we use them. When we use quotations, we have to give credit to the book by citing them. Don't worry, we will work on that together when I get back, but for now, I want to show you some guidelines for integrating or blending quotations into our writing, which is something that we just talked about having to do. So these are some ways that we can do that. The first tip is that we don't want to overuse quotations. We want to make sure that we're incorporating them into our own sentence structure, and we really want to avoid having two quotes in a row. If you remember on Monday, we talked about that word ratio and how for every single part of concrete detail we need to have at least double the amount of our own thoughts or of commentary. And so when we look at that ineffective example, we see that it's just two direct quotes in a row. And then that effective example is taking those same two quotes, but it's just picking out the important information from those quotes and incorporating it into your own sentence structure. All right, so this perfectly leads me into the next point, which is working the quotation smoothly into our own sentence structure. It's something that I've hit on a lot already. Let's look at our ineffective examples. The first one says, by saying, and the second one says, shows. We want to avoid this kind of language. We don't want to say, by saying, Lenny dabbed his paw in the water. Instead, incorporating it into our own sentence structure looks like a big bear, Lenny dabbled his paw into the water. So we're avoiding the language of shows how or by saying. Next, it's important to know that we can alter a quote for clarity. We can do this by placing the change that we make within brackets. So here, the original says, that mouse ain't fresh, Lenny, and besides, you've broken it petting it. But maybe we want to clarify for our readers that that we're talking about is the mouse. And so we put the mouse in brackets. We replace one of the it's with the mouse. And to go ahead and let our reader know that we changed what it did say, we put it in brackets. So it did say it, but now it says the mouse for clarity. And so it's in brackets. All right, so maybe we come to a quote and we want what's at the very beginning and the very end, but not the middle. So we would want to omit material in order to be more concise. Now remember, we want to let our readers know when we make changes like this. So we're going to mark that omission with 3 periods. This is called an ellipsis. When we use an ellipsis, we need to remember to put a space in between each period. And we don't need to use this at the beginning or the end of a quote, just if we're omitting something from the middle. So looking at our example, you can see that we've removed by now and to struggling had become weak. He stood crying. And to let our reader know that we omitted that, we stuck in the ellipsis right where that would have gone. All right, and the third kind of concrete detail is when we use a quotation and a paraphrase at the same time. And so an example of that would be, after George kills Lenny, that's our paraphrase because George does kill Lenny, Slim, quote, comes directly to George and says, "A guy got to sometimes," as they leave the river's edge. So the second part of the paraphrase would be as they leave the river's edge, because they do leave the river's edge. I didn't make that up. They did. So it's a paraphrase of what happens in the book. And then you can see the part that's the quotation because we put it in quotation marks. All right, so hopefully you remember that commentary is our own thoughts or opinions. So I want to look at some common mistakes that we can make when we use commentary so that we can avoid them. All of these next examples are going to come from a short story called The Scarlet Ibis. The first mistake that we can make is having commentary that's too generic or too basic. If we look at our bad example here, we see that the commentary is that it was mean of him and he wasn't being very nice. Better commentary makes a connection. So here we're saying that he doesn't care about hurting Doodle's feelings by forcing him to face a symbol of his own death. All he cared about was not being ashamed of an invalid brother. Do you see how that was way more specific than that was mean of him or he wasn't very nice? Next, we want to make sure that our commentary does not drift from our topic sentence. In our example, our topic sentence is that brother was cruel to Doodle when he was growing up, but we get distracted in our bad example. In the bad example, we start talking about the coffin. We say the coffin wasn't even used. This is way off topic. I mean, it says that he made him touch the coffin, but our commentary should be about why it was cruel of him to do that, not about the coffin not being used. So this commentary drifts away from the topic sentence of him being cruel. Instead, we can make a connection, like he wanted to terrorize Doodle by making him realize he was not going to live. That's more on topic. Another mistake is that our commentary is actually a concrete detail. In the bad example, what they try to use as commentary is they were in the barn when he touched it, and the parents had kept the coffin even though they did not need it. Now, those are both true things that happen in the story. This makes those actually concrete details because remember, if it happens in the story, it's a concrete detail. Our commentary should be our own thoughts and ideas about what happens in the story. Next, we want to make sure that our commentary doesn't repeat itself. So our bad example, brother was cruel to Doodle while he was growing up. For example, he made him touch the coffin in the loft. This was cruel of him to do. See, that's repetitive. He did not have to make Doodle touch the coffin. So you see here, the commentary just repeats what the topic sentence says. And so we don't want to do that. We want to give new thoughts, new information when we're using commentary. We also want to make sure that our commentary doesn't contradict or go against the topic sentence. Again, our topic sentence is that brother was cruel to Doodle when he was growing up, but our bad example says he didn't mean to hurt his feelings. Well, if we don't mean to hurt someone's feelings, that's not really cruel. So that would go against or contradict our topic sentence. And so our commentary should support our topic sentence. All right, guys, I want you to get out your concrete details and commentary practice. This is not homework, so it is not due tomorrow. It is due Friday. I want you to try your best. You will need your Tom Sawyer book. And again, don't panic about it. We will get better at this as we go along. All right, so go ahead and quietly work on this for the rest of class. I miss you guys. I love you guys. Please don't panic about this if you're confused. We will talk about it when I get back. Just do your best for now. Remember, not due tomorrow, due Friday.